The government hates encrypted messaging, not just the US government. Pretty much all governments. For instance, in China, it's illegal to have full disk encryption on your machine. In the US, the FBI just complains about Apple being jerks. I'm not going to take a stance either way in this video because, I don't know, run your game or whatever. I just think this is interesting. So there have been a bunch of encrypted phone companies in the past. Phantom, Sky Global, Cypher, to name a few. The difference between these companies and, say, Meta with WhatsApp or Apple with iMessage is that these companies are intended for illicit activities. They're marketed to criminal organizations. They're designed to facilitate crime. I mean, it's not like your average everyday person is going to want a phone with a hidden encrypted messaging app, which, by the way, is hilarious. The reason I got into this in the first place was that I was watching a Hugh Jeffries video where he was doing a hands-on with the Anom phone, the one that the FBI created to catch these international crime lords. And I just found the phone extremely confusing. I knew that it was part of an FBI sting operation because I believe Hugh Jeffries says it in his video, but I couldn't for the life of me figure out why somebody would buy a phone with a messaging app hidden in the calculator and a completely separate innocuous profile with dummy apps.
Here is where we'll use the PIN codes. Entering the basic PIN gives us access to the phone with 2 installed apps. But watch what happens when I enter the decoy PIN code. The phone loads into an entirely different interface, loaded with apps, most of which don't even work.
It just didn't make sense. And these were going for high prices too. I mean, I get these phones were marketed to criminals who were very serious about their anonymity, but only 2 apps on a $2,000 phone? Can you at least give it a little more functionality? And so I was wondering, what might a commercial look like for this device? Is your privacy important to you? Does the idea of opening a dummy profile as a decoy for law enforcement sound more appealing than asking for a lawyer? What do you think about hiding a messaging app in a calculator? This isn't a rhetorical question. Genuinely, what do you think about it? Well, you can get all of that dizzying security theater and more with Anom. We have a digit in our name to signal that we're elite AF. You focus on running your international crime ring. Let us worry about the rest. Anom, brought to you by the FBI. The phone was called the Anom phone, and it was running the operating system Arcane OS. Now, in case you were wondering, no, the FBI is not hiring developers to build this software for them and their sting operations. The story goes that one of the distributors of Phantom, a previously popular phone amongst organized crime rings with a hardened operating system and encrypted messaging capabilities, had invested in the development of Arcane OS and then got busted. And in exchange for a reduced sentence, they agreed to start distributing the Anom phones to their Phantom customers and to sign over their Arcane OS software to the FBI. And this is why I don't work in law enforcement. But hey, why pay for specialized skill sets when you could just reduce somebody's jail sentence? I feel like that one comes at a risk though, because if I'm an informant, I'm gonna try to show the scariest criminal organizations that my allegiance is with them. And I'm going to tell them not to touch this thing. I shouldn't be saying this on the internet. I'm just saying this on the internet. So there are a couple of other subtle differences besides customer base between these companies and companies like Google or Apple or Meta. And one of them is that if I start a company for a criminal organization and their telecommunications, then I'm probably going to do a lot to hide my company from any government. Whereas with Meta and Google and Apple, those are all US-based companies, and the United States government could go to them at any time with a warrant and say, we need this, help us. and they have to. The most interesting information about this case was actually written in one of these warrants from the FBI to Google. This was after I was working there. And in this warrant, the FBI special agent who wrote it actually details the extent of this operation, which was massive. The FBI had previously investigated Phantom, Anom's predecessor, and they learned that criminals are more likely to use these hardened, encrypted devices than, say, your friendly neighborhood cybersecurity specialist is, due to their high price point and limited functionality, which, oh my gosh, it was super limited. So this informant had apparently previously distributed both Phantom Secure and Sky Global devices to criminal organizations. He was a pillar of the community, we might say, and then had invested a substantial amount of money into the development of the new hardened encrypted device, which we now know as the FBI's Anom honeypot, which really just taught me that if I want to catch criminals and get paid for my work, first I have to work for organized crime. Thanks, FBI. So Australian intelligence, in cooperation with this informant, built a master key into the encryption system so law enforcement could decrypt each message on send, re-encrypt it with their own key, and store these messages in AWS. And they did use AWS, I believe. The message that's encrypted with the original key is then sent to its intended destination, where the receiver decrypts it with their own key. All of this is to say that the end-to-end encryption that the device and messaging service claim to offer is completely useless, of course, because it's a honeypot, sting operation, snitch device, the snitch phone. If this case study has taught me anything, it's that the FBI are masters of security theater. But they pay dick, and the contractor that they work with rejects every application I've ever sent in. So, looks like that's not a career path for me. Wonder if any criminal organizations are hiring. Just kidding. Crime is bad. Don't do it. Oh, the name for this sting operation was kind of cool, by the way. It was Operation Trojan Shield, which kind of sounds like a marketing tactic for a condom brand. I found it kind of funny, by the way, how the special agent who authored the Google warrant made sure to mention that these self-incriminating re-encrypted messages were stored off U.S. soil. The warrant specifies that, by design, as part of the Trojan Shield investigation for devices located outside of the United States, and encrypted a BCC of the messages routed to an iBot server located outside of the United States. See, this is actually where Australia comes into play. The US, UK, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand have an intelligence sharing pact. It's referred to as the Five Eyes. Legally speaking, Australian intelligence can decrypt messages from devices that are in the US and then share that intelligence that they've gathered from those messages with the FBI. So that's a fun little loophole. The warrant continues, saying that the newly encrypted message, newly encrypted meaning encrypted with the FBI's key, then passes to a second FBI-owned iBot server where it's decrypted and its content is available for viewing. And this sentence in the warrant, this actually does corroborate what the FBI had previously said, which was that Anom was a fully developed product before the FBI infiltrated the Arcane OS development project, because there are some design elements in there which don't really reflect how maybe I personally would design a snitching device. I mean, if I were to design one, I won't. Nobody kill me. I'm not a snitch. So in some of the intercepted conversations, the FBI actually learned that word-of-mouth marketing was key to the success of Operation Trojan Shield. Crime organization members would recommend Anom or even purchase device units for senior members of organized crime groups outside of Australia. This is how Anom gained international popularity. So basically what they were hoping to do was plant some of these devices in Australia, and they were hoping that they would trickle across the world. And that's actually exactly what ended up happening, because the government has been chasing devices like these. Buyers and sellers both go through this heavy vetting process with each other, to avoid snitches and narcs. So by having this one informant, the FBI had a back door into selling these these devices, because this person already had the trust of people from multiple criminal organizations from distributing other devices to them previously. Fun fact about pay, the informant was paid about $50,000 for living expenses. $50,000 is actually the starting salary for an FBI agent, which is like unlivable in San Francisco. If you have a family and you want to be an FBI agent, it's going to be really hard to make ends meet around here, I'll tell you that. And this informant was also paid $120,000 for their work. $120,000 is actually a very common starting salary for new grad software engineers in Silicon Valley, which, side note, it's also kind of hard to live on around here if you have a family. But then again, I guess if you add in the reduced crime sentence and the fact that the informant was an investor rather than a developer or an architect of the software, that's still way cheaper than hiring, I don't know, a senior engineer who specializes in security. The warrant was delivered to Google on May 17th in 2021, which was like 1 or 2 months before they announced that they had infiltrated all of these crime organizations with their snitch phone. The warrant says that the informant had controlled the distribution of Anom devices in consultation with the FBI beginning in October 2018. The sting operation was going on for 3.5 years. At the time of writing the warrant, the FBI had logged more than 20 million messages. They distributed over 11,800 devices, and 9,000 of those devices were active at the time of writing the warrant. So apparently this whole sting operation was intended to thwart organized crime, which I mean they did do. The operation was considered a major success, but they also uncovered government corruption, which, are we really surprised at this point? The special agent notes in the warrant that the review of Anon messages has initiated numerous high-level public corruption cases in several countries. I wish they had given numbers because it would have been interesting to see the percentage of corrupt countries, though I'd wager to guess that that's close to 100%. The warrant also goes on to say that FBI and friends identified over 300 distinct criminal organizations using Anom, which is really insane when you think about it. There are 193 countries in the world, meaning that there were 1.5 times more distinct criminal organizations just using Anom than there are countries in the world. That's an unsettling statistic, because what about the organizations that weren't using Anom? Like the scary ones that the informant would probably say, hey, don't do this. The warrant continues, I've seen conversations where Anom was used for the logistics of the drug shipments, but Cypher or Sky were used to coordinate the concealment of the illicit proceeds. So like organized crime is just that, organized, and also crime. They're sophisticated, and technically they're companies. They're just not registered companies. And a lot of companies have something called a business continuity plan, which is like, oh, what happens if this service I use is hacked or breaks, etc. So it makes sense that these criminal organizations would use similar tactics. And it also makes sense that they distribute their devices and use different devices for different things. They're definitely going to want to avoid a single point of failure, like, fully incriminating themselves and the entirety of their operation on a single compromised platform. In 2022, European investigators shut down another large end-to-end encrypted messaging service, which really helped increase demand for the Anom phone. So by going after other end-to-end encrypted messaging services used by criminals, law enforcement is effectively shutting down means of communication for organized crime rings, as well as increasing demand for the Anom phone so that these criminals can then incriminate themselves. I mean, it's kind of brilliant. At the time of writing the warrant, the FBI noted that Operation Trojan Shield was operating in over 90 countries. That's like almost all of them, or 46%, which is a lot of them. The warrant further states that a goal of the Trojan Field operation was to shake the confidence in the entire industry, because the FBI is willing and able to enter the space and monitor messages. We get it. You have a big dick, FBI. Why do you pay dick, though? Now, this warrant eventually became unsealed, like a month after it was delivered to Google. And it was the basis of a lot of articles, mainly Vice. But if you read the writing closely, it really does read like a statement, almost like a threat. And honestly, anybody can find it. You can look up FBI, Google, warrant, Anom phone if you want, and you will find it. I read a couple of Vice articles where some journalists had actually interviewed members of the FBI, and some of their tactics were really, really interesting. One special agent told Vice, "We can't just run a good investigation, we have to run a good company." That included providing customer service, solving users' tech issues, and potentially dealing with hackers who might target the company. It also said that Anom had to look like the new phone that criminals wanted to use, the best new thing, the snitch phone 14 Pro Max. And I just can't get past the irony of this. I think it's freaking hilarious that they just start this tech company, even though, you know, they didn't develop the tech, but whatever. And then they have to provide customer service. Comment down below if you've ever worked a customer service job. I really want to know. I've personally worked a few customer service jobs, and you have to kiss ass, man. You have to kiss people's asses when you really, really don't feel like it. No matter how mean, how rude, how degrading they are to you. You have to give them a good experience. Customer service reps are the real heroes. But like, can you imagine being this hardened secret agent and all you want to do is take down organized crime because organized crime insulted your mother? I'm just kidding. They do way worse things than that, but I don't want to get demonetized. I already said kissing ass like way too many times. But like, can you imagine having this deep personal vendetta? I mean, we've already established that the FBI doesn't pay that much. So in order to like really get into it, you have to want to work there really badly or be independently wealthy. You're risking your life. You have to have a very deep reason for getting into this line of work. So you probably don't like organized crime that much. I mean, I don't know if it's a leap to say that, but can you imagine then having to play kiss ass to everybody who goes against everything that you stand for? You have to then play customer service rep? Well, I can imagine it, and I think it would go something like this. I cannot believe I let Grumpo get away last time. I'm a shitty, shitty agent. I should just go work at Google or something, because I'm not good enough for the FBI. Fucking stupid! After sleeping with my mom, too. FBI Tech with Grumpo, your friendly neighborhood Anom phone customer support agent. Hi, yeah, I recently bought an Anom phone, but Facebook isn't working. Have you tried turning it off and then turning it back on again? And how do I do that? Oh. Excuse me, did you just groan? What? Oh, no. My service is a little wonky. It's a new anonymization encrypted voice device. That doesn't sound right. I want to speak to your manager. Oh, no, that won't be necessary at all. I believe I just asked to speak to your manager. When I ask for the manager, I expect the manager. Sir, is the manager necessary? I thought that we were making great strides with the power button. That's it. I'm taking my business to Sky Global, and I'm bringing all of my friends with me. FBI Tech with Grumpo, you're fired. Wah, wah. Well, I wasn't really sure how to conclude this video, but this topic did end up sending me down a very interesting rabbit hole, which I'm not gonna share online. But I actually found some interesting tips and tricks to avoid detection, and I learned a lot about computers and cybersecurity. I mean, there's always more to be learned, right? Because guess what? There were people with similar skill sets on both sides. You have the good guys or the the law enforcement and the bad guys, or organized crime, or however you see good and bad. And they're battling each other every day and learning from each other. And this dynamic actually drives a lot of technological advancement in cybersecurity, which is something that I find extremely interesting about this field, and it's why I'm so passionate about it. You know, learnings can come from anywhere, and I think that's what this case really shows. Because in this case, the bad guys had developed technology that international law enforcement wanted to use. They're the ones who provided the skill set that ended up thwarting them and leading to, ramifications. So I guess another learning that we can take away from this is tech knowledge isn't everything. Sometimes you should prioritize. Buy versus build versus buy, as long as you achieve your goals. And in this case, even though they don't pay that much, even though they didn't build the tech, this was really a win for law enforcement. So maybe I should expand my skill set. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I know I haven't done a tech video in a while. I probably won't be doing a lot of them because my actual job is in tech, and sometimes it's nice to go on the internet and talk about other things, but I'll still be doing tech. This is high tech with Grumpo. Anyways, if you made it all the way to the end of the video, please let me know in the comments down below by commenting a computer emoji, because computers are cool. Like and subscribe if you liked the video, and if you want to subscribe to me. Don't just blindly do what I tell you to do. But I would really appreciate it if you did do those things. Even if you shared the video, that would be cool too. And I guess I'll see you next time. Grumpo out.